Hello, my name is Xavier Mercado, and this is Spearhead Conversations. Today, I'm joined by special guest Tommy G. Tommy G is a boots down YouTube content creator that documents around the U.S. some of the most brutal, gruesome type areas. With that, his whole mission and trying to bring awareness to certain areas, certain stories. He's made quite a name for himself. I'm proud to have him with me. I've watched his content, and we reached out, and he surprisingly answered. So without further ado, how you doing, Tommy?
Good, man. Life is amazing. We're trying to bring people the craziest documentaries on the internet and show people the underworld, what's really happening in the country, whether it's Skid Row, one of the scariest places I've ever been, to the trenches, to what's going on in Washington, D.C. So we got our plate full working on stories that hopefully the people enjoy and makes them more aware of what the hell is happening in this country.
Yeah, man. I'm thoroughly impressed, bro, because some of those areas I came across you on YouTube, and it was a story you did on St. Louis. I just found out you did a part 2 for that should be coming out. And with that, I mean, once I started watching your content, it's kind of like, no, you can't take your eyes off. It's pretty crazy that some of the lifestyle these people live, man.
It's definitely been eye-opening. We just got back from St. Louis because unfortunately they're ranked again as the #1 murder rate city in the country. And you're talking to 11-year-old kids with guns and not just like a little tiny pistol, but like a crazy gun that you can see, like, I don't know what they call it, the double drum on it.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating to see what is reality for some people.
Yeah.
For some people. And that's what we're here to discover.
Yeah, I think that's what I respect the most. It's the fact that people they wouldn't prefer, they have their opinions about the content you create, but at the same time, this is reality. This is just a reality you don't get to see. So I'm happy you're here, man. And with that, let's jump in.
Cool, let's do it.
All right. So where were you born?
Crystal Lake, Illinois.
Crystal Lake, Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about Crystal Lake. Were you there long? Were you
Crystal Lake? I actually grew up in Schaumburg my first 4 years, and then we moved to Crystal Lake. But Crystal Lake is the most white bread suburban place you could probably imagine. Like, it's got the Applebee's, it's got the Red Lobster.
Yeah.
It was a nice childhood, good place to grow up, thriving sports. Like, a lot of people were moving there, so we always were crushing it on like football and wrestling and baseball. It was very competitive. It was just a great place to grow up.
Yeah. What hobbies were you into growing up?
What hobbies? So I started wrestling when I was 10, but I spent a lot of my childhood going to different ponds. We had a pond near my house. I'd try and catch snapping turtles and frogs, and we would fish a lot and go to tree forts where there's like, it was built by kids. So like, it was 5-story tall tree fort, but it was like 20 feet because like you're just crouching around and there's nails sticking out everywhere, and like kids go to the top of it to piss off the top, like lighting off bottle rockets. Just getting into kind of innocent trouble.
Yeah, for sure, man. So when did you make that leap to Milwaukee? When did you move to Milwaukee? How long have you been in Milwaukee?
I've been in Milwaukee 8 or 9 years now.
8 or 9 years.
So I was recruited to go wrestle at Whitewater, and I finished my career there. So I went to college there. I wrestled there. And then after that, it was looking for job offers in Madison, Milwaukee, and I found a job in Milwaukee, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. What job was that?
So I was a payroll small business consultant for a company called Paychecks, and I got assigned to some of the craziest zip codes in Milwaukee, and that's what got me comfortable with kind of what I'm doing now. That was the beginning part of it. Was I was in 53206 on 13th and Burleigh, talking to daycares, home health cares, gas stations, restaurants, and talking to the business owners and helping them pay their employees and do their taxes was kind of what I helped them with.
So being here in Milwaukee, like you've grown accustomed, is it home now? This is the home base for you?
100%.
Yeah, man. I've been here 6 months. I was 6 months when we moved to Milwaukee. But outside of that, what type of crowd did you roll with growing up?
I would say like a band. Like, so when I was a kid, I was with just a band of kids that wanted to, play sports, run around the neighborhood, get muddy.
Yeah.
Probably just a regular ragtag group of kids.
So yeah, with that, now you're in Milwaukee. Now this is kind of the home base. You have your own family. You're married, right? As
Married with a kid on the way.
Kid on the way. How's that for you?
It's beautiful and scary at the same time.
It is.
Yeah.
It truly is. I have a 3-year-old right now, but I have 4 altogether. Jeez. And yeah, man, it's a job.
I'm excited, but I'm also aware that things are going to be changing for good, and it's going to be tough too. Like, I think it's going to be a real big challenge, but it's also going to be real beautiful. Like, to be able to take this kid, when let's say he's 6 months old, I'm walking him in the woods, like showing him what a tree looks like, and
for sure.
Like playing with the dog, like all those little things. I'm excited to share with him.
It's definitely, man. Fatherhood is a blessing. It's saved my life. It turned me away from things I was getting into, and it really put perspective. Other than that, it's a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
But so how did you get into YouTube content creating?
I started probably all the way back in high school. We made a Jackass video. I made basketball trick shot videos. I made a little video of pranking my neighbors where we had an electric mouse and we'd have them play a computer game and we filmed them getting zapped by the mouse. So I've always been interested in like entertaining or making people laugh or just diving into the content space. But then I started making music videos when I was in college. And then I transitioned to prank videos when I was a little bit older. And then just in this last year or so, I've really hit the ground running on documentaries.
Yeah. And talking about documentaries, you did something in Milwaukee that, it caught the nation's attention. It was a story you did on the Kia Boys.
Yes. I didn't even know it was a nationwide thing until afterwards. But then once it got published, I had news reporters from Seattle, Fort Worth, Texas, Baltimore. So many different cities around the country started reaching out and being like, yeah, the same thing's happening here. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think there's little teenagers out there, or some of them not even teenagers yet, that are out there jumping into Kias, driving crazy, and running. Like, imagine being a 12-year-old pulling up to your middle school being like, yep, this is my stolen car. Hey, girls, you guys want to come hop in with me? I'll take you to McDonald's. Like, it's a wild world.
It's crazy. And when that story broke, Kias are still being broken into, but, it's sad. It's sad. And with that, how was it when you covered that story?
Like when I was actually there physically?
Physically, boots down, as you put it.
There's a state of disbelief. You're talking to kids and they're talking like this is completely normal, acceptable, okay. Like, it doesn't bother them at all that someone just lost their car and they might not have insurance or they might not be able to pay rent and they might not be able to get to their job. It's kind of like to think that for some kids, it's just their entertainment. Like, oh, I'm bored. This is what we do to keep ourselves interested. Is just, it's baffling, and it's almost like it feels like something from a movie. It doesn't even feel real.
Yeah, when I saw that story, I was just in awe. Like, why would you guys ever do an interview about, you know what I mean? It's in my head, that's what went through. Like, why would you ever talk about it? One,
why would the kids agree to show?
Yeah, why would you? But then again, that shows the age. That shows, I want to be glorified for this, and not realizing how you said this is somebody's life.
I also think no one had any idea that it was going to take off like it did.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to totally bomb because I'd been putting out prank videos. I just had started getting into documentaries. I'm like, I don't know if anyone even cares about this. Like, I thought it was only a Milwaukee thing. I didn't so when it took off as fast as it did, it was surprising to me too. I was like, holy shit! Like, we're onto something here. Like, the pulse of the people are interested. They're engaged in this, and also I think there's an appetite to see the underworld, because it feels, a lot of people feel like this country probably since COVID, like you look at different pockets like San Francisco where you can just, if you steal under $1,000 worth of stuff, the police aren't even going to show up or care about it. Yeah. And so like we're getting into like, there's always been lawlessness. Like we've had the prohibition, we've had outlaws. As long as the world has been around, there's been outlaws. But I think seeing how blatant these kids are, I think is fascinating to people. And then there's so many questions that come with it. Like this kid once started out as a cute little baby. Like what happened in his life to get to the point where like it's not an issue to take someone's car? And there's so many different factors and questions that it brings about that I think is important for us to think about.
For sure. Do you feel like that Kia Boy story is what set you into pursuing the documentary side of what you do now?
I think that was the piece that made it undeniable that this is the path, this is where I should be chasing, and to fully commit to that. Because I had my, I was in the corporate world and I was doing these prank videos, and then I started doing these documentaries. And then once I got fired from my corporate job, it was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like this is a sign, like chase it, go after it. So I gave myself 6 months to chase documentaries full time. And if we wasn't making a certain amount of money, I told my wife, okay, I'll get a real job. Because I didn't want to just be a drain on the family, and she let me chase after it. And now it's become a career.
Man, to be honest with you, your wife is sounding like mine, because without her, this wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, 100%.
I ended up leaving my job, and now this is pursuing a business side of it. It's that belief, and it's great when it's your best friend.
So. Oh, my wife is unbelievable, and my life is in such a beautiful place. I mean, together because of how our relationship is. So she's a huge part of behind the scenes.
Well, let's do this for her.
Shout out Sweet Cheeks.
Shout out to the wives.
Yeah, 100%.
Man. So you have a wife. You have one on the way.
Yeah.
These are dangerous areas that you're stepping into.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize your safety when you cover these areas?
That's becoming more and more difficult, because as the channel gets more and more known, before I would pull up and I'd be with the crew, but now like everyone's advertising. Like before I show up to a city, it'll be like on the guys, my contacts, like they'll put it on their story. Oh, we about to have Tommy G in the build. Like, and so now all these eyes that are like, it's just a lot more risk factor, because that's the biggest fear. Is not that the guys that I'm meeting with, I'm not worried about at all. They want me there. We're having a good time. We're giving them a platform to share their story, so they see value in that. I'm not worried about them. What I am worried about is who are they beefing with last night or last week, and now all of a sudden I'm going to get caught up in some nonsense that I wasn't even a part of in the first place. Mm-hmm. And you're in these spots that, just in like where we were in St. Louis, every car that's passing by, if they don't know whose car that is, they're concerned and they're ready to point a gun at that car. And it just takes one time for something crazy to happen. And so I am interested to see, because I know when baby comes out, that things are going to change that I won't even be able to comprehend or explain, and that I won't be able to know until I cross that line into having the baby. So I don't know. I don't know how things are going to change. I do want to be the guy that goes boots on the ground, and this is the way that I'm going to put food on the table for the family. And so I'm still going to be covering stories. I'm still going to be getting myself into risky situations, but it's about the calculated risk. Yeah. How can I, I tell especially in these really gangster areas, hey, no one goes live while I'm here. Like no one points guns at my cameraman. Just little things to try and keep it together. But
so those are how would you say the precautions you take before you go in?
I haven't really taken that many precautions up until I've just really, I mean, I guess my precaution would be this, making sure that the contact I'm meeting up with has a good reputation in the city, and making sure that they're not in a lot of hot, active beefs. Cause I'm not trying to, and I don't stoke the flame of beef. I never talk to guys about like, all right, man, talk your shit. Like, I never try and stoke those flames, because one, I don't want to invite that into the world. Like I'm a peacemaker at heart, and it makes me sad to see all the beef, because from an outsider looking in, when I see, like the ops, they live a block away. You guys would be friends in any other world. Like if you guys weren't brought up in a world that was so violent and chaotic, you guys would be playing sports together. You guys would be doing hopscotch, whatever it is. There's no reason, like the only reason you guys don't like each other is because there's like this blood feud that's been going on for generations. And like you kind of inherit that as a kid. Oh, this guy shot my uncle. He shot this guy. He shot that guy. So all of a sudden you have to inherit the beef to be cool with your crew and to protect yourself. And then it's the cycle that just keeps perpetuating. So it's very frustrating and sad to witness, because it seems avoidable, but you'd have to almost put like a pause and like erase people's memories. So it's, it's going to keep continuing.
It's sad, man. How do you assure the authenticity and accuracy of the stories you're covering?
I would say, well, one, there's nothing staged, there's nothing set up. It's about asking the right questions, and that's how you get to know who people are. Like, a good question is like a mirror to the soul, you know? And so my job is to go there, ask questions, get a feel for who they are, ask them. I want to make them laugh, but I also want to ask them tough questions too. I mean, it depends on who the person is. Like, if I'm talking to a fentanyl dealer, I got to say, like, on the scale of good of evil and an evil, where do you put yourself? Or if I'm talking to a pimp, like, how are you bossing up? Like, he'll be like, oh, I'm bossing up the females. How are you bossing them up if you're taking all the money and they're doing all the work? Mm-hmm. So I think there is a fine line. It's like a tightrope that you want to balance on, of like, I'm not here to judge anybody. I don't have any preconceived agenda. Like, that's what mainstream media gets wrong all the time and I've dealt with this myself. They'll have their story written before you even talk to them, and they just want you to say the things that are going to fit their narrative.
Wow.
I don't have a forced narrative. I'm boots on the ground. I'm on the fly. I don't have a huge production crew. I don't have 15 people it's just wherever we go in the story is where we go. Yeah. So I think that's what assures, and that's why I have all these, like, I'm getting myself into really crazy situations, and I think it's because I've built the trust of the audience that this is what it is. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's nothing behind the scenes. Like, this is the story. And that's why I get all these connections around crazy areas.
Well, your stories range. There was another episode where you were in Las Vegas with the mole people.
Yeah, the underground mole people.
The
of Las
underground
Vegas.
mole, and that, it's just a different outlook. What type of impact, when you go to these cities, do you hope to make when you leave? Because you're spending quite a lot of time with these people to create this purely authentic, content.
Yeah. I think it's to, one, have a larger conversation. So it could be like, hey, how do we handle homelessness in this country? How do we handle gang violence in this country? What should our gun laws be? So I think to get people thinking about these questions, but really I think it's to get a human side to the story. And this might sound out of pocket, but I'm not kidding you. Like, I have a fentanyl dealer in my phone right now that I like the guy. I think he's a good guy. Like, I think I enjoy being around him, but I also know that he contributes to overdose deaths, but he's just like a small player in like a huge, there's a lot of chains in this story. There's the Chinese that are manufacturing it, the Mexicans that are bringing it across the border. There's so many people that play a role in this story. And I guess that's what I'm learning is, like, even someone that you might think is a total piece of shit, they're still a human. They still have wants, needs, and a lot of these people have really crazy backstories too. Like the pimp I was talking to, his aunt, who was a prostitute, taught him the game of how to pimp. Or a prostitute we talked to, the dad was a pimp, the mom was a stripper and prostitute. Like, no shit, she's a prostitute. Yeah. So I think, like, and if you look at the Chicago Pimps and Prostitutes episode, the comment section is so powerful because people are cheering for the prostitute's name. She goes by Baby. Everyone is cheering for her, rooting for her, wanting her to find her way, and encouraging her to become more, and that she is capable of that. And it's like, that to me, like, it could have been everyone's like, dissing her, like, oh, you have bad morals, or you're doing this or that. And instead, people saw the humanity in her, and that to me was like, man, we hit the mark on this story. Like that's I feel good about that.
Yeah. How do you balance portraying the reality while respecting the people you're covering?
There are questions that are scary to ask, right? Like, hey man, like, you're rapping, like, you're doing the drill music. I don't know how many bodies are attached to your crew. Like, one, I don't try and ask, I never want to ask anything that's incriminating. So, like, I keep it high level, but also, like, you're talking about you want your city to be better, but your rap is like, I just bodied this guy, this guy, this guy. Like, how are you contributing to it? I guess it's that balance of asking the humanitarian questions, like, what is your childhood like? What do you want for your crew? When you make it big, what do you want to happen? Like, and letting them express very positive things. Because even the most crazy gangster rapper I've talked to pretty much wants nothing more than to take his crew out of the hood, give their mom a house, and live a normal life. But at the same time, like, you got to talk to guys that are like actively participating in what's tearing apart the city, like you got to ask them the tough questions of like, what role do you play in this?
Yeah. What has been most eye-opening for you when you traveled to these dangerous areas?
Man, there's so many different ones. I'll start with the zone in Phoenix. It was kind of the Skid Row of Phoenix, and just seeing like someone just walking around with a handful of fentanyl, and like people that are, like it's almost like a subhuman community. Like the way people are living, like how grimy and dirty and chaotic it is. I guess seeing the impact of drugs on communities.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is undeniable that meth and fentanyl and crack and trank and all these different things, like it changes a person permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's things that people can't come back from. And I think that's important for people to see, because I think when you're younger, you feel invincible. You think, I could just try this. I'm going to be fine. But then seeing what takes place and seeing how like a person is willing to live in a tent on the street, even though they have access to, like a lot of these places have shelters that would give them a room for free, but they'd rather be on the street doing that drug. Like that to me is eye-opening, and that to me is like worth pondering and thinking about.
I just came back from LA.
What'd you think?
And it was not what I thought. I thought it was going to be glorified. I thought it was going to be, this place of awe, but instead it was sad. Drug addiction and, homelessness. It overruns the city. And, it's we all have decisions, and I'm not here to judge anyone, but to see how it is gotten out of control in the way it is when you have tent cities and there's a daycare right next door.
Imagine dropping your kids off there.
While I was there, Fox 11, I think it was, interviewed me on a story about that, and it's like, whoa. Is this reality? Is this what's really happening right now? It's the reason why, and I'll say I respect the content that you put out. While most can't digest it, that is still the reality of what people are living. Mm-hmm. And you're just giving this eye-opening experience that, these are things to pay attention. These are things that organizations based off of watching your content can come in and try to diffuse the type of, violence that goes out in these neighborhoods. What you put out can be used in such a positive way to create change. And I think when you're doing and you're documenting the stories, it's a bit controversial.
Yeah.
Right? You have people who have heavy opinions in the way they think about you. I'm pretty sure you've dealt with your critics, but what I respect is that this is reality. We can't put a veil over and act like this isn't happening, So you've been at this for quite a couple of years. Mm-hmm. How has this impacted your life outside of, outside of doing the content, your life with your family? Has it impacted? Have you had people come up to you? Have you been, basically tracked down to give a statement of any sort? Or
are you asking from a police standpoint or from like a notoriety standpoint? Or
well, just from being living your normal life outside of your content creation? How's it impacted?
I would say a few things. One, the overwhelming majority of my interactions, whether it's people that see me outside in the street or it's people that see my videos online, the overwhelming majority of the feedback is very positive. And so like I have a lot of fun interactions. Like a guy that just started at the jiu-jitsu gym's like, oh, Tommy G, like I know you from your videos, and he's training there now, and he's training to become a fighter. And it's like, that to me is really cool to be a part of. I would say that it does invite a little bit more paranoia as far as, one, like being unrecognizable is kind of a luxury. Like it's nice to just go wherever you want during the day and not have to think about if somebody recognizes me, positive or negative, how it could go down. I would say like the elements of covering some of these really crazy topics too is like you want to be very careful because like we just covered a group of gangster disciples out in Kansas City. They had a meetup from a statewide meetup where they had 40 guys or so. And it was actually a very positive interaction. Like, I know they're known for really bad things. The question, like what they talked about, you couldn't get upset with them. Like they were talking about the importance of fatherhood and don't shit on people for 9 to 5s. Like we want our guys to be working and supporting their family. Like everything they were saying was like, I agree with you.
Well, a lot of the gangs that we have, you know, throughout the U.S., they were founded on structure. They were founded on principles.
And these are they're founded in places that need structure. We all need structure in our life. Sure. And you can find it in a lot of different ways, whether you go to the military or you're at a gym or we need that. To be healthy human beings, we need structure. But I think like you were talking about, like, what are some of the pitfalls or what are some of the things that I have to consider now? Like a big part of it is anything sketchy I do, I send a copy of the video to the people in the video and get it okay with it. Because I'm back in Milwaukee when everything's said and done. I don't have to deal with repercussions. So I want to make sure, like if we just had a contact hit me up that wants to show me taking illegal immigrants from Texas to deeper within the United States. And I would be in the van filming it. And like, there's so much to think about there. Like one is, I never want anyone to get in trouble because they're going to share their story. So like, the legality, like, do we have to blur your face? Do we have to alter your voice? So sending it to them to make sure they feel comfortable is very important to me. The other thing is, like, let's say it's the illegal immigrant story. There are people that are saving up. There's people working in factories right now that are sending money back home to try and bring their family to America. Is me being in the car going to bring attention to the car? Like if Border Patrol stops us and catches the whole group, like I don't want to be part of that. I want those people to get where they're going.
Yeah.
And so like there's just things you have to consider of like protecting your sources. I guess that's the biggest thing, is making sure that your sources are protected. And I would say like that's the reason why I keep getting all these leads to crazy places, is because I've done an amazing job of protecting my sources.
How do you feel this experience has it changed you as a person? What has it done for you in a positive manner, do you feel? Like wisdom that you've gained from doing these stories.
Well, I would say one positive thing is that I feel like I have found my calling. I've spent years in jobs where I'm like, this is not what I'm meant to be doing. So like finally be in a place where I'm like, I'm 100% in on this thing. I'm passionate. I'm excited. Like every day I'm like, I have the best job in the world. And like, it's okay. What are we going to track down this time? Like, what's the story we can get into? Oh, we're going to Houston next. What are 4 different interesting stories in that area we can cover? And then like, how do we find those contacts? Like to me, it's, and then there's a ripple effect because I get to share these experiences with an audience. As many people that want to see it on YouTube get to tune in and see it. And we get to have kind of a big conversation about homelessness or gang violence or whatever it is. You know, we just dropped one about investigating corruption in Washington, D.C. And that to me was a piece that I'm very proud of. I was just
there last weekend.
And it's like, our government has been screwing us for so long. Like to be able to get in there and just peek a little bit behind the curtains and then bring that back to people. Like I get so much satisfaction out of doing that. And I'm like, it's very... and also to be that this is my career, like incredibly grateful and lucky, and just feel like, wow, like I'm happy for my life.
Isn't that a great feeling? Yeah, because with this whole thing I got going, I feel like I finally found my calling. There's nothing anyone could tell me. I'm gonna pursue the stories that I pursue. You do a lot of this. What have been some of your favorite stories that you've covered?
I think it's a lot of times it's the story that like once we get back in the car and we're safe, it's like, dude, we were doing that. Like we were there. Yeah. I think one that I always highlight is getting raided by Mexican police in Mexico. Like the fact that we didn't die, the fact that we're okay.
Damn.
So we were interviewing a guy named Hostage, and while we were interviewing him, 3 Mexican police comes in, masks up, rifles up, and no, piso la verga, get on the fucking ground. And we got on the fucking ground, dude. Like it was just, and then when they left and we continued the interview, we got to talk to people that's witnessed it. Like neighbors came from all around to like, are you guys okay? Are you guys okay? Like to bring that back to the people and share it with them was like, holy shit, dude. Like,
yeah.
I think making the one of one pieces, and it doesn't always have to involve danger, but danger makes the niche less crowded. Like less people are willing to do that. Like if we can pull something off that not many people can pull off, it feels like almost like a Houdini, like a magic trick. Like we were able to like escape the manacles before the water filled up, that to me is exciting. And then I think why I'm proud about the Washington DC one is I have really good connections and I've had really good success getting into the underworld. I want to cover the buttoned up side of life too. So like to be able to talk to a US senator or go into think tanks that are, some of the people we were speaking to in Washington were part of this group of top 500 most influential people in Washington, D.C. Yeah. So like to go from talking to a pimp to talking to, one of the best lawyers in America that works in D.C. is like, okay, cool. Like I want my doors to be infinitely open. I want to be thinking about any story that sounds interesting to me and be able to go cover that. And sometimes covering the crazy shit, that's definitely closed doors. Like there's a lot of stories that I probably would want to have covered that people are like, once they see my channel, they're like, this isn't a good fit for us, or your brand's a little too edgy for us to want to sit down with you.
Yeah, man. Well, you feel it. You can tell you're good at what you do.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. You're definitely good at what you do. Where do you see this going in the next 5?
I have just from a car ride that when we were coming home on the last road trip, we probably made 150 ideas to cover. That's 3 years worth of content. I see this going until I can't go no more. I mean, until it doesn't excite me anymore. And so to me, it's just like, how can I guess another aspect of it is I really want to launch the merch side of it. I want to so this is a piece that I'm working on. If you look at YouTuber merch, it's usually like a black shirt, white letters, pretty basic. Yeah. And that's okay. There's a time and place for that. But I want to put out pieces that when people are rocking it and walking around, they're like, they feel part of a community. So working on the merch line is really important to me, making sure that hits and that makes an impact. Just the different areas of business that you can grow. And I'm working on an uncut website where the stuff that YouTube won't let me post, people are going to have an opportunity to watch that. And so like, where do we go with that? And what can we bring the people there? And there's just so many things. There's an endless amount of things that I can juggle and think about. As far as a community impact, I'm really thinking of ways that I can funnel money into Milwaukee wrestling, particularly in the toughest neighborhoods. How can I funnel money that I can renovate an entire wrestling room? New mats, new wall mats, a rope that they can climb, pull-up bars. How can I leverage that? Because that's the sport that changed my life. That's the sport that gave me the confidence to go into a lot of these places. Like, obviously, I'm not winning against a gun, but against a lot of people on the street, I'm pretty damn comfortable.
Yeah.
I want, and that confidence, I want, and that work ethic. That's the other thing, is that's probably the most important thing, is the work ethic that people can learn from that sport. I don't think there's a harder sport in America, maybe fighting, MMA, but like even fighters don't want to do wrestling practices because they know how much of a grind it is. I want to try and bring that to the city, and especially with young men, put them in a world-class facility that they feel good about training in, and they give them something that's greater than themselves to chase after. Hey, you could be the next state champ from Milwaukee, man. Like, but you got to work for it, and then see where that kid's life goes from just talking about that, dude. I'm so passionate about how the sport of wrestling can change the city, and I'm passionate about how I can be a force that brings about some of that movement. And I know there's going to be other people that we bring in to do that, but that to me is exciting.
That's awesome to hear, man. Because, like I said, it's pretty insane the type of work you're getting. It's like going into a war zone, bro.
Yeah. It's fucking scary sometimes, dude. Like we're in an abando in St. Louis, and we have little kids that are being the watching the corners, and then you have the other guys, like grown men with huge guns that are, I'm probably selling crack. I don't know exactly what they're selling, but like they have a choke point where you have to go past them to keep moving. And it's just like, holy shit. Like this is, so many people will never see what this is like. But on the flip side is like, to the guys living there, like they don't, when I try and be like, just so you guys know, like you guys know that this isn't normal, right? Like it's normal to you because you're in that, but like most people would be terrified around here, or would be like totally in disbelief that this is happening every day. Yeah. And like they're so entrenched in that world that they're like, this is everyday life. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this isn't a big deal. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared. Like,
Oh, for sure.
you know?
How was it for you when you first seen one of your videos go up? Because your videos are ranging from 800,000 to 1.5, 1.7 million views.
Yeah,
How
we
was
just
that?
had one from 2 weeks ago that's at like 3.5 million, and that I think the Kia Boys is at 6.7. Like, there are videos that are like, they get shot out of a
Man, look
cannon.
at me, man.
And
oh yeah.
so I mean, it's really exciting because it's like, okay, like we're on the pulse with some of these pieces. Like, there's a reason people are tuning in, and I think as long as like I can ask the best questions I possibly can that reveals behind the scenes or the emotion or the humanity behind it, like that's where like my biggest thing is. Like, there's been shoots where I'm like in the car, I'm like, I missed it, dude. Like, there's a few questions that were such layups that I was just too in the moment of like doing what I had to do to think about it. But I wish, like, that's where I keep like wanting to improve. And we as a crew, like every shoot on the car ride back to the Airbnb or back home, it's like, what went right? What went wrong? What can we improve on? Where did we miss? What did we do well on? And just thinking how we can keep making our stories better.
Now, this is the work you do. This is the work you find passionate.
Yeah.
What do you want people to know about you? About who you really are?
I would say that I'm a peacemaker. I'm always a guy I'm a compromiser. Like, I want to figure out how can people come together? How can we unite? And that's what's really, really missing in this country is we have an endless amount of reasons, especially fueled by mainstream media. Like, are you like man versus woman, gay versus straight, black versus white, Republican versus Democrat? And when you actually step out into the community and talk to people, we're so much more alike than we are different. So it's like, I want to help bridge the gap with people. I want to help bring people together. And I think maybe something that people wouldn't guess by watching my stuff is my everyday life is pretty relaxed and maybe boring, you might say. Like, I wake up at 6:45 and I walk my dog with my wife, and I go to bed by reading a book, and I go to jujitsu practice, and I'm working on my computer, and I'm petting my dog and running around. Like, I'm not going to the club. I'm not balling. I don't got a Rolls Royce. Like, I live a pretty ordinary life.
There you go. What advice would you give to our inner city youth? You've seen a lot. So, yeah.
Realize that your life is important, and so is everyone else around you. Like, no life is. Bring back the sacredness of life. Like, you only this life, especially as we're getting older, that like, how fast time starts moving. The older you get, the quicker the time of life flows by.
Well, for sure.
So know that you are here and you have one opportunity to make an impact, to make things better. And I believe it's every human's job to try and make the world a little bit better. Whatever the little neck of the woods you're in, the little pot of water you can boil that for the good of people. And so, and also know that like there's a whole wide world beyond what you see. I know what you see day to day is crazy. I know you've seen a lot of traumatic things, but like find something you love doing it and just throw yourself into it. Dedicate yourself to it and know that things are possible. Like I think a lot of the kids in the hood think that the world doesn't want to see them win. There's like this us against the world kind of attitude. And I would challenge that. Like, I think a lot of people do. Like, I don't think people want the hoods to be as crazy as they are. I don't like even suburban people that are like, we need law and order around here. Like even those type of people that you think might be your enemy, I think they want you to win. They want you to do well. They want you to have a safe, nice life too.
Yeah.
So I think just realizing like, and figure out, like, be very careful as who you pick as your mentors. Like, if you're the guy you look up to is like the guy that talks about popping people all the time, he's probably not the right guy to look at. But like, I know tons of guys in the hood right now. Like one of my really close friends is like just killing it in real estate right now. Used to be in the streets, was about that life. And now he's what got me into real estate. The first place I ever got, he showed me and like showed me how to do it. Like he gave me so much knowledge that is going to change my life. So like find the people that are going to get you to really where you really want to be. Don't find the people that are going to, if you follow their roadmap, their blueprint, you're going to end up in jail or prison or dead. Find the guy that's going to be like, I'm going to end up successful, happy, safe, comfortable. Follow that guy.
Man, well, I appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
Man, it's, to get this insight, I feel like this was a daring interview because it's so different from the rest. But I feel it's so important. It's so important to get these type of stories out.
Yeah.
Because people like to live with a veil over their eyes. Like this isn't happening, but it is.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
You know, man, I really respect what you do. So based off of that, man, thank you again.
Parting words, my parting words for the people.
Yeah.
Read as much as you can. Like there's a book called Evicted that's written about Milwaukee that I think gives an amazing perspective of what's happening. But learn and love. Like the more we can try and love each other and find common ground, even the fentanyl dealer, like how can we love him through this situation? This guy's he's now a post office worker. Like he's found another path. So like love somebody, hold them to standards. Don't just let yourself get walked over. Don't just let crazy shit happen without consequences, but try and love people to their next chapter.
Yeah. With that being said, thank you again. It's been a pleasure talking to you, getting to know you. And with that, Spearhead out.